Your identity is not who you are. It's the image your mind uses to recognize you. And if you never question that identity, you might spend your whole life living as someone you became to survive. In this podcast, I expose my life, the distortions I spent years living in and mistaking for who I was. I invite you to confront what you've normalized and choose differently, so you can build a reality you fall in love with. Today in Undistorted Self, identity is one of those things that we tend to adapt to. We don't really think much of it. What identity is, it's your self-image. It is literally the way you make sense of who you are. It's not bad. It is actually very helpful for your mind and for you to give a sense of self. But if it goes unquestioned, it can do you a lot of harm, especially the identity that gets built when you're so young. So when we're born, we don't really have a sense of who we are yet in the world. We gather that information based as we keep growing, but based on our surroundings and how other people respond to us. And that's how we start developing that sense of self. So our identity is super tied to our environments, to our surroundings. And that equation can include so much distortion. So that identity needs to be questioned. And it's always good to make it a practice that keep questioning it along the way, but especially the identity that it's built, the original identity that was built. So when we're young, we have a lot of, in general, we have a lot of needs. But when we're young, we're not capable of really giving it to ourselves. So we depend on others. And the needs that I'm referring to is safety, love, protection, care, support, and basic needs like food and water, etc. And when those basic needs are not met cleanly, they require us to adapt in order to receive them. And that adaptation is a behavior that we start creating. So let me give you an example. If you don't feel loved or cleanly loved in your household, maybe there's moments it feels like you need to earn the love of those around you when you're growing up. It's not just given, or you need to earn your space, your chance to speak, you need to earn everything. Then you start adapting to the notion that, okay, in order to be loved, I need to earn it. That is such a damaging belief, because you're gonna carry that belief with you forever. So that means that in whoever you meet along the way, you think that love is something to earn, care is something to earn, support, belonging, the main things is not something that is just given. You need to earn it. And that's where you're gonna get a sense of self that maybe what you're doing is never enough. That's insanely damaging. And when it ties to identity is, okay, so if I learned that in order to be loved, I need to make it easy for my caregivers to love me. Or if I start being angry or having a lot of emotions and I add, let's say, complications to the life of my caregivers and they get constantly mad at me because I'm just going through emotions, then you feel as if they don't really love you. So you start, okay, I need to become easy to love. And if you try it once and basically they respond in the way you were hoping they would, so if you just try to not have emotions and try to make it as easy as possible for them, and you start seeing that maybe they do act more kindly towards you, they give you more love. So the equation becomes, okay, in order to be loved, I need to make it easy for them. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna take that with you for the rest of your life. And you're gonna think, oh, every single moment that you start getting frustrated or angry or real emotions, you might attack yourself as, no, they're not gonna love me. Or you're gonna keep waiting and keep trying. So they eventually do. That's not love. That's not clean. That's an adaptation that you learned when you were so young. And yeah, and then identities form the moment that, since when you're young, creating that sense of self independently, meaning on your own, thinking, okay, this is what I like, this is who I am. Some things are born like that, but most of it, you observe other people's reactions towards you. So if there's certain behaviors that come from adaptations to get needs, and then the person says, ah, she's such a beautiful, cute kid. Oh, she's so easy to love. Ah, she's so difficult. Ah, she's a nightmare. Oh, she's so shy. Or she's just always happy. She's the joy. And those kind of phrases are labels. And those labels are coming from your behaviors that people are granting to you. And you might hear them call you all these things, and you might think, oh, I guess I'm shy, or I'm difficult, or I'm actually very cute, or I'm very easy to love. So you start adapting all those labels you hear from the people around you that you're trying to get their validation or, getting your needs met from them, and they become who you are. And when you adapt those labels to your sense of self, you start behaving in ways that continue verifying those same labels. And the more you continue behaving in that way, verifying those labels, the more evidence you collect that in fact, what you believe is you is actually you. Basically, that identity full of all these labels coming from perception starts getting reinforced inside of you. So you start believing, so more people are calling you the same things because obviously you're behaving towards those in that way. So they're calling you the same labels. So you get reinforced. So you start convincing yourself, I am shy, I am shy, I'm shy. And you actually might have never been shy. The thing is, when you're young, you don't know better. So it makes sense. But now we're not young anymore. We get to question that. We get to go back in time and remember, try to think, what did I need to do in order to get my needs met? Did I need to silence my needs? For example, I had to do that. I silenced my needs. I thought I kept trying so hard to be less of a burden so I could be loved. So yeah, I thought, you had to be easy to love. That love was something to earn. All those things. And you start hearing, and there was a moment when I was very young that I was called shy. I was called shy at school, and the truth is actually I'm not a shy person. Not at all. But I had so much in my plate, so much in my mind that I didn't really care about the normal socializing and the friend groups. I was out of it, frankly, because I was carrying so many things that I rather retreat and be with myself because I couldn't keep holding all the burdens that I was when I was very young. So it looked like my behavior was that I was shy, but I wasn't. I was trying to cope with everything was happening inside. And it's so funny that I kind of would hear that, and I was like, okay, I guess maybe I'm shy, but actually when I grew up, I even showed myself that I was not shy. I was actually very, very sociable. So the moment that I was able to actually lessen some of those burdens, I started being extremely sociable. So that label that I had when I was young was definitely not accurate, but it was based on behaviors. But the thing is, people don't see the reason behind your behaviors. So when you're just adapting to the labels others are giving you, they're probably distorted because they don't have the full truth. They just have access to your reaction and your behavior. Only you know why you behave that way. And I'm giving you this information so when you go back in time and start thinking what you had to do when you were young, or what other people called you when you were young, start questioning what created that label. And then start asking yourself why you behaved that way. Because the why is something that nobody else will be able to give to you. Only you can give it to yourself. And the why behind your behaviors is going to tell you a lot more than any label. And I'm saying this so when you use this, when you go back and question. So the thing is, our identity, as I'm saying, is formed very early and we adapt different things. And identity is something that gets updated, depends on the person and depends on your environment. And because obviously we're always changing, and depends also if you're changing your environment. Because if you spend your whole life in the same environment with people behaving in similar ways and everything, you might just keep the same labels and everything, so there won't be that much change in your self-image. So again, your environment has a lot to do with it. So question it and question your behaviors, what people called you, and how you actually felt, like who you actually were at different moments of your life. Start digging and digging, especially to see those parts of you that maybe you still believe and you hold on to that are probably causing you a lot more harm. They're probably the reason that you're stuck, that you're not able to take the opportunities that you would love to take or create the dream life. So now I go to the comfort zone. I've been thinking a bit about this, and the comfort zone, obviously, it's what is familiar and keeps you comfortable, as obviously the word says. But as I thought about it, I realized that the comfort zone is basically whatever keeps your identity intact. So that means all the behaviors and actions that reinforce your current identity. That is your comfort zone. And I'm not saying necessarily just go out in all your comfort zone. No, no, no. The reason that a lot of people are pushing you to go out of your comfort zone, if we take that label, that sentence that's saying one step deeper, it's not necessarily just to push you out. It's actually saying question your identity. Question what you're calling normal. Because that which you're calling normal and protecting, again, might be the main thing keeping you stuck. And your comfort zone is protecting your current identity. So you've never checked your identity, it is protecting the wrong thing and it's keeping you stuck. And the reason that a lot of times it's so hard to do things out of your comfort is not because of the action. It's primarily not because of the action. It is because you're protecting the version of yourself that might collapse if you take that action enough times and realize, oh, maybe this is not who I thought I was, or maybe I'm not who I thought I am. And that belief, the moment that belief enters your mind, might crumble kind of basically your foundation. So this takes me to the next point. Your identity, when we're young, forms a pretty crucial role. It becomes your ground. It is your sense of self. It is what keeps you thinking, okay, I know who I am. Therefore, if I know who I am, I know the kind of behaviors that I do. And it gives you this sense of security. So it forms that, I call it your ground. Like you have somewhere you're standing on. And if you start behaving in ways that some parts of that ground are not really that, start shaking, it's more likely that everything starts falling down. And what happens if your ground is out? Well, you probably fall. You feel like lost. You feel so confused and lost in life and no grounding. So you cling so hard to that identity. And the thing is, if you make your ground the original identity that was formed when you were young, your ground is unstable. It's insanely unstable. And the mind is really good at distorting reality to protect you. So this is when I'm going to bring the ego. The ego is not bad, and I honestly dislike that it has a bad reputation. The ego's job is to protect you. The ego is a part of the mind that is going to protect you. And it basically is protecting your ground. So whatever you make your ground, that is what it's protecting. So if your distorted identity that was formed when you were young is your ground, then the ego is protecting that distortion. And your mind and the ego, as I already said, has the capacity to distort and alter reality. So you're not going to be protecting the truth. You're protecting an illusion with everything you've got, to the point that even you are not seeing things the way they are. And the ego can rationalize, can defend, attack, deny, and alter reality, all to protect you. And the things that are protecting you from is pain, fear, guilt, desire, conflict, confusion, and change. So if you keep complaining, my ego's out of check, my ego, blah, 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 and all of that, check your identity. Why is your ego having to jump in and protect you and maybe attack the other person, or, I don't know, do some crazy thing or whatever? Ask yourself what it is protecting. What in you is kind of being shaken or bared, that is might be starting to collapse, that your ego's coming to save it so it doesn't fully collapse. So all of this that I've said are different things for you to ask yourself, to question that identity you're standing on, and question to see if you're making your identity your ground. Because it shouldn't be. You shouldn't be clinging on to an idea of you, and every time anybody says something different, they're like, no! So it's like you have to convince people to see you the same way that you see yourself, because if they don't, then that ground shakes. So if your shaky identity is your ground, so many things are gonna make it shake. And are gonna push you to do probably horrible behaviors. Don't let that happen. Just question that identity, understand, see the parts that are harming you, the parts that are helping you, what you keep, what is actually no longer serving you, what is keeping you stuck. And the truth is, I'll tell you more about this in the next episode, but your ground, there's ways to have a clean ground and that your ego can actually protect, that is not harming you or being aggressive or distorting reality. There's ways to do that. So I'm going to leave this episode with a question to invite you to question your identity and go deep in the questioning. So the question is, who do you think you are, and what of it is helping or harming you the most?